what do you call it, war. It's not only when you go to war. With the sales of arms you are talking about. You see, the United States actually, as one of the developed countries in the world, has actually done more harm than good in respect to wars, crimes against humanity. That's why I don't subscribe to the idea of ICC, International Criminal Court. We have not seen any of these leaders in the world being prosecuted. The only albatross is African leaders who are being prosecuted in the ICC. So I think this is an indirect answer to begging for this is an indirect answer.
Slobodan Milosevic, the leader of the defunct Yugoslavia, was tried by the ICT. Aliu, Aliu, but we have other world leaders that have been tried in the past, like Slobodan Milosevic, the leader of the defunct Yugoslavia, was also tried at the ICT. He was also tried at the ICT. We have other leaders, so it's not about African leaders. If African leaders do not respect themselves, definitely they'll be tried. And even right now, if you look at the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, do you think if Vladimir Putin is no longer Russian prime minister, you think he will be free? Do you think he can be free? There's no hiding place. There's no hiding place for people like this. You know, when you are embarking on this, and you think that you have all the powers to embark on this, what if you leave power? What will happen? That's the $1 million question.
I agree with you, Mr.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Aliu. Aliu is a regular contributor to this show. Aliu Garba, please, you can always call to make a contribution. It's going to be very valuable, and we will appreciate them. As I told you earlier, you can also get us on social media or reel out everything. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Good morning. My name is Adamanda.
Okay, you're welcome to the show. Sir. Okay, ma. Good morning, ma. You're welcome to the show. Ma.
My first time to follow your program.
Okay.
You know that this program is there.
Yes, ma.
I thank God I tuned in by this time, to read it.
Welcome, ma.
Very enlightening, I learned so much. So now, I now understand why America is now shouting about the use of nuclear weapons, because they have used it and saw the kind of destruction that is massive destruction
yes.
it did on humanity. To put their own in check. So I just really pray we have to strengthen our institutions so that we can put some of these excesses in check. All the same, let's not joke on Nigeria. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, ma. Thanks a lot for your contribution. That was Radio Mama making a very incisive contribution on the show. So let's take this. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello?
Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Mr. Ako from Bukuru Locos.
Okay, Mr. Ako, you're very welcome to the show. Your contribution, sir.
Since I want to ask you, have you heard the story of the history of the slave trade?
The history of what?
America is evil.
America is
evil wherever they stand.
Okay, wherever they stand. Okay.
The history of the slave trade.
Okay, the history of the slave trade, of course. Yeah, there are various versions. Even yesterday we talked about
all the books about the slave trade.
Yesterday we talked about the Zong ship massacre, where 100 majority of Americans believe there was a conspiracy. The assassination left a profound impact and was the first of 4 major assassinations during the 1960s in the United States of America, coming 2 years before the assassination of Malcolm X in 1965 and 5 years before the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. and Kennedy's brother Robert F. Kennedy, who was a leading presidential candidate in the Democratic Party in 1968. Kennedy was the 4th United States president to be assassinated and is the most recent to have died in office. Now let's look at one of the possible reasons for Kennedy's assassination, the most viable, looking at years of investigation and analysis. The Bay of Pigs invasion. Yes, I told you about the Bay of Pigs invasion here, I think about last week. This was a failed military landing operation on the southwestern coast of Cuba in April of 1961 by the United States and the Cuban Democratic Revolutionary Front, consisting of Cuban exiles who opposed Fidel Castro's Cuban Revolution, clandestinely and directly financed by the United States government. The operation took place at the height of the Cold War, and its failure influenced relations between Cuba, the United States, and the Soviet Union. By early 1960, President Dwight Eisenhower had begun contemplating ways to remove Fidel Castro. In accordance with this goal, President Eisenhower eventually approved Richard Bizel's plan, which included training the paramilitary force that would later be used in the Bay of Pigs invasion. Alongside covert operations, the United States also began its embargo of the island. This led Castro to reach out to the US's Cold War rival, the Soviet Union, after which the US severed diplomatic relations. Cuban exiles who had moved to the US following Castro's takeover had formed the counter-revolutionary military unit Brigade 2506, which was the armed wing of the DRF. The CIA funded the brigade, which also included approximately 60 members of the Alabama Air National Guard, and trained the unit in Guatemala. Over 1,400 paramilitaries, divided into 5 infantry battalions and 1 paratrooper battalion, assembled and launched from Guatemala and Nicaragua by boat on the 17th of April 1961. 2 days earlier, 8 CIA supplied B-26 bombers had attacked Cuban airfield and then returned to the US. On the night of 17th April 1961, the main invasion force landed on the beach of Playa Girón in the Bay of Pigs, where it overwhelmed the local revolutionary militia. Initially, Jose Ramon Fernandez led the Cuban Revolutionary Army counteroffensive. Later, Fidel Castro took personal control of the invasion, of repelling the invasion. As the invasion force lost the strategic initiative, the international community found out about the invasion, and the new United States President John F. Kennedy decided to withhold further air support. The plan devised during Eisenhower's presidency had required the involvement of U.S. air and naval forces. Without further air support, the invasion was being conducted with fewer forces than the CIA had deemed necessary. The invading force was defeated within 3 days by the Cuban Revolutionary Armed Forces and surrendered on the 20th of April 1961. Most of the surrendered counter-revolutionary troops were publicly interrogated and put into Cuban prisons with further prosecution. The invasion was a US policy failure, and it is believed the CIA never forgave President Kennedy for the failure of the invasion. The Cuban government's victory solidified Castro's role as a national hero and widened the political division between the two formerly friendly countries, as well as emboldened other Latin American groups to undermine US influence in the region. As stated in a memoir from Chester Bowles, the humiliating failure of the invasion shattered the myth of a new frontier run by a new breed of incisive, fault-free supermen. However, it may have been a necessary lesson. It also pushed Cuba closer to the Soviet Union, setting the stage for the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. The Bay of Pigs invasion was a colossal failure by the U.S. military, or should I say the CIA. And one of the major reasons was because President Kennedy refused to support. He refused to grant the air support that the CIA really needed. In the future, we'll still talk about this and look at more possible reasons why President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Now, looking at his background, he was a war hero. He was in the naval force during World War II, talking about Kennedy. And in 1960, he became the youngest man ever to be elected president of the United States of America at the age of 43. He defeated the incumbent vice president, Richard Nixon. Nixon was vice president to President Dwight Eisenhower. He defeated Eisenhower in a very close contest. And he was really doing well as president. He was doing well, very straightforward, and not like the normal day-to-day politician who want to dazzle here and there. He decides to do all his things in a very straightforward format. And that is why today the American public still consider him as one of their best presidents ever, regardless of the fact that he was only president for 3 years. Talking about John F. Kennedy. Not until the election of President Joe Biden just a few years ago, he was and remained the only Roman Catholic elected president of the US until Biden came in. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from? Hello?
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, your name and where you're calling from?
Hello?
Your name and where you are calling from?
Okay, my name is Julia.
Okay, Julia, your contribution. Hello? Okay, the number to call is 08064641536. You call to make your contributions. We are going on a short break. I want to come back. We'll talk about the 4 boys from Lagos. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Okay, maybe we'll take one more call before we go on a break. The number to call 08064641536. We'll call to make your contributions. Okay, we are going on one music break. And when we come back, we'll look at the 4 boys from Lagos who decided to take the laws into their hands, urging the federal government to declare Mikael Abiola as president in 72 hours, or they kill all 193 passengers on board of a Nigerian air bus that was traveling from Lagos to Abuja in 1993. The 4 boys decided to hijack the plane. We'll be back. Please stay with us. Don't go nowhere.
Power. Discover what it all means. It's a class on history, a guide to today. From national debates to global diplomacy. This is ISSIUES in perspective with Ngo Ferdinand. On rhythm 93.7 JAWS. Morning clarity Monday through Wednesday, 9 a.m. Put in the news in context.
This thing, okay, tell people to reach you. People want sponsors.
Okay.
You know how you call yesterday? Nice.
That's the number.
Okay. This one match with the program.
Yeah, this one match. Morning.
The husband to me. Okay. And ask the engineer.
Cairo.
Are you still posting on X?
Sir?
Are you still posting on X?
No, we don't have videos there yet. We don't have videos there yet. But you can still call out the X because we have over 400 and I think 500 and something videos. Yes. It's history that's TV. Yes. The same thing, history that's TV. Then YouTube, History Dex Television. So we tell viewers to drop their
Comments.
questions
and
comments on our Facebook page.
On our social media handles.
Social media handles, sorry. All of them. So we'll be checking and be updating, answering their questions and contributions when we come live. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, welcome back. If you just join us, the program is Issues in Perspective. And my name is Umbung Ferdinand. We are here to look at issues of the past, the history of our politics and the politics of our history. The four boys from Lagos, yes, they say they own the land. You heard that music there by Sonny Okosun, who owns the land. The boy said, they say they know Greece and they don't own land, though. So Yawa Gas, on the 25th of October, 1993, it was just like every other ordinary day. The four Nigerian teenagers, as I told you earlier, between the ages of 16 and 19, frustrated and absolutely dissatisfied with the annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential election by the military head of state, General Ibrahim Babangida, decided or they kill all passengers on board. The teenagers, who were all based in Lagos, were led by Nigerians that the flight had been taken over by a group known as the Movement for the Advancement of Democracy in Nigeria. The hijackers demanded the Nigeria military-backed interim government of Chief Ernest Shonekan must resign and name Moshood Abiola as president. The four hijackers said they will set the Airbus 310 on fire in 72 hours if this demand was not met. After 2 hours of negotiation, they freed 129 people, including Vice President Rong Yiren, from the plane and held back the crew and Nigerian government officials. The four hijackers said they will set the Airbus 310 on fire in 72 hours unless Nigerian authorities agree to their demands, which at first included the resignation of the military-backed government. The leader of the hijackers, Ogunderu, spoke to a BBC correspondent who was also on the plane. The correspondent asked what they were fighting for, and he told him they wanted to actualize the mandate given by the Nigerian people to MKO Abiola. Not knowing how sophisticated the hijackers were in skill and explosives, the police could not initially attack the plane. Nigerian government sent 24 delegates to come and talk to the hijackers, but none of them entered the aircraft to talk to them Instead, they were in the hotel asking for food. The Nigerian soldiers eventually realized the hijackers were not armed, and under the cover of darkness, they stormed the plane. So eventually, after 4 days of stalemate in negotiation, the gendarmes invaded the plane and arrested the hijackers. A crew member was killed in the process. Following serious and concerted lobbying by the parents of the teenagers who believed if the boys were handed over to the Nigerian authorities, they would be killed, they were remanded in an army prison without trial for 9 years, but were released in 2001 following the return of democracy in Nigeria. The prior Nigerian military government didn't even bother requesting for them to be extradited. The military government were satisfied with their being kept away in Niger, as they wanted the boys away from Nigerian soil to prevent them from becoming a symbol of resistance to Nigerian youths. The teenagers placed their lives on the chopping plank to save Nigeria, as they believed at the time. They were only teenagers, yet they wore the chest of warriors. In 2019, a multiple award-winning Nigerian filmmaker, Charles Opaleke, who is the chief executive officer of Play Network Studios, announced his initiative to create a film based on this true life story of the hijack and everything surrounding it. As seen on his social media, Opaleke announced, "I have just approved the final draft of this exciting thriller, and my team and I are set to commence principal photography." His comments were met with responses filled with excitement and encouragement from friends, acquaintances, and well-wishers far and wide, locally and internationally. The film, The Hijack 93, according to him, is an unequal creative mission by two of the most prolific film production companies in Nigeria, Play Network Studios and Native Media TV, in collaboration with UK-based filmmaker Femi Oyeniran. The co-production largely supported by the UK Government Department of International Trade, which has been actively seeking and facilitating UK-Nigeria co-productions in the film and TV space, and the British Film Institute aims to tell this legendary African story through the prism of motion pictures. The co-collaborators find this project most expedient for encouragement because they acknowledge that what happens to us in our story and the stories we tell become our history. The story of the African person must be told and defined by Africans. The film was eventually produced and released by Netflix. The 1993 Nigerian teenage hijackers, Richard Ogunderu, who are now all adults, Richard Ogunderu, Kabiru Adenuga, Bennett Oluwadaisi, and Kenny Razak Lawal are all still alive and doing well. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello?
Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Good morning, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for reminding me and refreshing me of this history that you just said about this young man. But I remember how old I was then. So how of everything. But today, you have put more light to it. Compared to us that were in trouble at that time, do not understand what happened. Well, everybody is entitled to his own opinion. Those guys to me are heroes because they decided to die for this country based on truth. Based on truth.
But there are some people.